million residents, plus countless tourists there to enjoy the beauty of the islands, are still trying to catch their collective breath tonight after a panic this morning. That panic set off by this emergency alert sent to cell phones across the state, warning of a ballistic missile headed their way. The frightening alert even going as far as to warn, quote, "This is not a drill." It wasn't until 38 minutes later that a correction was sent to cell phones, saying it was all a false alarm. The reason for the mistake, according to the embarrassed Hawaiian emergency state officials, somebody pushed the wrong button. Here's the governor.
What happened today was totally unacceptable, and many in our community was deeply affected by this, and I'm sorry for that pain and confusion. I'm too very angry and disappointed that this happened. We're doing everything that we can immediately to ensure that it never happens again.
No word on who specifically is responsible for hitting the wrong button. But we'll have more on this developing story throughout this hour, including with former Jason Chaffetz's former congressman in just a few minutes. But first, my opening statement. The difference between President Trump and other presidents is his transparency. No political correctness, no talking out of both sides of his mouth, but instead a hard-nosed, what you see is what you get, successful negotiator. But no, rather than applaud him for that transparency, the president's haters would rather take him down, preferring to get in the way of our economic success and international strength. Their hatred of this man is so all-consuming that they would rather obstruct and resist, dooming us to failure because they do not like his transparency. Now, I want to be clear. It's not the transparency, but the hatred, so intense that puts us in danger. Hatred like this.
Today, the world is suffering from the real Donald Trump. Come on, let's go. What are we talking about? Let's clap for that. This idiot is the president. The guy is a fool. Come on. Our government today, with the prompting of our baby-in-chief, has in chief, I call him.
Did you notice how he had to read everything, that the only time this guy could lift his eyes off the page was to curse? And then there's Chelsea Handler, who just this week weaponized a person's alleged sexual preference by tweeting something aimed at President Trump and a Republican senator in that DACA meeting. It was so vile and homophobic that I won't lower myself to show it to you. And by the way, since when do sexual preferences matter to Hollywood? And Sean Penn. This week, he called the president an enemy of the state and an enemy of mankind. Somewhat screwed up, since he immortalized Hugo Chavez, the Venezuelan dictator, accused of so many human rights violations. Hey, Sean, when'd you stop beating your wife? That's a rhetorical question, of course. These Hollywood celebrities are so full of hate, they would rather our nation fail so that they can blame it on the president. These Hollywood hypocrites, now trying to be the voices of moral indignity, were complicit in their silence of the Harvey Weinstein casting couch and the sexual predatory behavior, the open secret in this den of iniquity. And by the way, what makes their opinions so valuable? These actors have little, if any, responsibility, liability, or consequence for their performances. They have a bloated sense of self-worth compared to us, who might be lucky enough to be at the same pay scale. Their megaphones are in no way commensurate with their morality or their contributions to society. We're real people, and real people in the real world do not get a redo. 20 takes every day to make something right. In short, actors are nothing more than people pretending to be other people. My own daughter took acting lessons for almost a decade. When at 16, she announced she did not want to act. Stunned, I said, why? She said, I don't want to say something that someone else wants me to say. I want the words that come out of my mouth to be mine. That from a 16-year-old. And yet these people were silent. These Hollywood hypocrites, when their own ideologue was in office. Where was their outrage when Barack Obama was sending millions of dollars to Iran on unmarked pallets and unmarked planes for the release of terrorists? When this president on his last day in office gave $221 million to the PLO and then $4 million to Palestinians to study climate change? Where was their outrage when this administration, Obama's, thwarted a U.S. international drug operation called Project Cassandra, where Hezbollah, an arm of Iran, was engaging in drug trafficking to the United States and killing Americans, so that Obama could then dance with the devil in Iran and send them $150 billion? Where was Hollywood's outrage when the president allowed the sale of 20% of our uranium, used by others to make nuclear bombs, and Molly 99 for nuclear medical imaging, to be sold to the Russians with a payback of hundreds of millions going to the Clintons? What was in it for Obama for his silence? And where was the outrage when Obama couldn't stop apologizing for America's alleged sins? Instead, our president, the man who improves our economy, reduces unemployment, brings the stock market to historic highs, passes tax reform already adding $2 million to our economy, building up the military, eliminates the individual mandate, and in spite of being an accused racist, has brought black unemployment, heightened under 8 years of an African-American president, to record lows. So to the actors and the haters out there, put a lid on it. Real people, not actors, not ideologues, elected Donald Trump president. Real people, the ones who only get one take to provide for their families. Your voices don't compare to the voices of the forgotten men and women who live a normal, hard-working life, who heard Donald Trump and figured they had nothing to lose after Barack Obama, took a chance and bought into his lack of political correctness and his transparency, and are now benefiting from it. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, #JudgeJeanine. Joining me now, former Utah Congressman and Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. All right, Congressman, a lot to discuss, but let's start with the breaking news tonight and this terrifying false alarm in Hawaii that emergency officials there say it was a simple someone hit the wrong button. What do you say?
I have a really hard time believing that. Sorry for my raspy voice tonight, but I got to believe that one person pushing a button and then it takes more than a half an hour to reverse it and put out another communication on the surface. I don't think we should believe that. I know the governor is there, saying this, but somebody's got to go in and verify that, because I have a hard time believing that that's actually what happened.
All right, you're saying the fact that there was 38 minutes for them to pull it back tells you that something was going on. All right, let's engage in a theory that you are hinting at, suggesting, or outright saying, and that is maybe something was going on, and that there was a reason for the alert, and that possibly the United States did what it had to do. What are you saying, Congressman?
No, I'm just saying it's worthy of inquiry. I mean, it affected literally hundreds of thousands of people. I had friends in Hawaii, one person that I know in Kauai who woke up to this emergency, and the terror that those people went through. They didn't know what to do. I have a hard time believing that somebody just kind of bumped into a button on a computer and then all of that happened. And if that's the case, how poorly designed was that system? I'm just saying we have to verify it. I'm not trying to put any conspiracy behind it. It's just on the surface.
How do we verify it, Congressman? How do we verify it?
Well, I would love for somebody, I got a lot of belief in Tulsi Gabbard, who's the congresswoman there. Go walk through that and show the person exactly how that happened. Or somebody from the Oversight Committee, or somebody who's independent that can come in and look at it and say, all right, show me what you were doing and how this, try to recreate it. and then hold somebody accountable. You can't just say, oh, it's a mistake, and pat them on the back and let them keep doing their job. Somebody should be fired and dismissed and disciplined.
But you're okay. In addition to have consequence, which hopefully will happen here, since this is not the Obama administration anymore, if there is a consequence, there should also be a consequence to not just the person who hit the button, but 38 minutes it took them to figure it out. That means something ain't right in River City.
That's right. Now, supposedly they're doing a drill, and then I heard that there was a shift change. But who's in charge? And what if there actually was an attack and a missile coming in? I mean, it was a circus of errors. And they have to get that right. And it should be a wake-up call, not only for Hawaii, but for emergency management systems all across the country. I mean, it could be an earthquake. It could be a lot of things.
Okay. All right. Let me move on. And I want to move on to the information that we got this week that Devin Nunes on House Intel has apparently made it clear that he believes that the dossier, that fake make-believe dossier paid for by the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign was part of the application for the FISA warrant, and therefore suggests real clear abuse of government surveillance by the FBI and the Justice Department.
The dossier was a bogus document. We know that between the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign, there was more than $10 million that flowed into hiring a foreign agent, something that's against the law. They need to look into a guy named Mark Elias, who is the general counsel for the DNC and was involved in the Clinton campaign and had ties to the Podesta group. The Podesta tie into this has not gotten much attention.
Right.
You have to look at that, and then you have to look at what sort of verification did they put into this document? Did the FBI itself pay and reimburse for part of this? Non-verified then goes and takes this as the impetus to spy on Americans, i.e. the Trump administration. And so I'm telling you, Devin Nunes, Trey Gowdy, Mike Conaway, Tom Rooney out of Florida, they're right in the heart of this. It has taken months for the Department of Justice to provide these documents. They had to threaten a subpoena, get the speaker involved. That ought to be a flashing red light to everybody, but they got something to hide. But now that supposedly they're going to turn over these documents, again, I think the world is going to see what really happened here.
Okay, so let's assume that this fake dossier that was paid for and that's full of absurd allegations against the president was created for the purpose of bringing in that FISA surveillance. And, of course, as part of the document, why don't we have the application for the warrant? Who do we have to go to get the application for the warrant?
Well, look, it was Jim Jordan in the House Judiciary Committee that asked the Attorney General, asked Rod Rosenstein, the number two.
Well, they don't want to give it to us.
Do they know? Will they provide that?
They said no.
They won't.
Right,
and that's just, that's not the way our government works.
My viewers want to know. Now, where do we go? Now, how do we find out? Enough of this stuff. Enough of going on and on over this thing. Let's find out what the application for the FISA warrant looks like. Who can give us that? Is there anyone other than Sessions and Christopher Wray and the FBI?
You have to have Mitch McConnell and the Speaker themselves, as long as with the chairman of the committees, Devin Nunes, Bob Goodlatte, Trey Gowdy, and in the Senate, Senator Grassley, to actually grow a spine and do their job and hold this administration accountable. It's a Republican administration. I get it. But it was the same thing in the Democratic administration. There is a deep state that is well seated, and they have got to extract the material. And until they hold down their foot, hold these people to fire, hold people in contempt, have votes on the floor of the House, and actually go out and sue people and insist that this happens, it's just going to flail along.
Congressman, this is crazy. These people shouldn't get a salary unless they're doing their job. They shouldn't be able to move anything until they move what is possibly the most corrupt attempt, an effort to stop a candidate for president of the United States by the FBI and the Department of Justice. These people have to go. I'm just go over this every week, and every week I don't know any more than I did the week before. If it weren't for the Hill, if it weren't for people like Tom Fitton and some of these organizations that are seeking the freedom of information, we wouldn't know a thing, because the establishment is in bed with the rest of the establishment. Am I wrong? Tell me.
Subpoenas subpoenas that come from Congress, the Department of Justice doesn't pay attention to them because the only way that Congress can enforce that subpoena is through the Department of Justice. That needs to change. The only thing that the administration seems to be afraid of are the courts, because the courts can incarcerate and they can fine. And there's got to be an expedited way for Congress to actually get to the courts. That's why Tom Fitton, and I pat him on the back, and Judicial Watch have such great success, is they get before a judge and the judge looks at the facts and says, this is ridiculous.
All right, so maybe more congressmen ought to go through Freedom of Information, because even though they have oversight over DOJ and FBI, they can't get an answer because the deep state is everybody. I mean, how can someone who's the head of the FBI say, no, I don't think I'm going to give it to you? But then they said a few weeks ago, yeah, we are going to give it to you. I haven't seen it yet. Congressman Chaffetz?
No, look, Devin Nunes said that they were going to supposedly get them. And I think the key question is not how, when you hear the Department of Justice say, oh, we gave these thousands of documents, the question is what percentage of the documents? Because as Trey Gowdy likes to say, you tell me what percentage of the truth you get, you want me to give you, then you tell me what percentage. And it goes from Fast and Furious to the IRS case to the DEA. You go right on down the list, and you're going to find Benghazi, others. They never gave Congress 100% of the documents.
No doubt about it. Jason Chaffetz, thanks so much for being with us. And
thanks,
more on the false alarm in Hawaii next, including the celebrities you can always count on to say something stupid. I'll tell you who from the Hollywood elite are blaming President Trump for what happened in Hawaii this morning, if you can actually believe that. And next, the panel is here a little early tonight. Chris Hahn and Ned Ryan join me live to talk Hawaii, immigration, and more. Plus, Oprah's name being thrown around as a presidential candidate. Does she have a shot? I hit the streets to find out, and you never want to miss that.
All right, so you think she's got a good shot?
She definitely has a good shot. You have a good shot.
Breaking tonight, folks in Hawaii still recovering after a terrifying alert this morning that an inbound ballistic missile was headed their way. Officials say a worker is to blame for pushing, quote, the wrong button. So much to talk about with my fired-up political panel, so let's get right to it. Former G.W. Bush speechwriter and CEO of American Majority, Ned Ryan, and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer and radio talk show host Chris Hahn join me now. All right, good evening. Good evening. Thank you. All right, guys, let's talk about what Congressman Jason Chaffetz just said. And he seems to indicate that there is a conspiratorial piece to this, that it took 38 minutes for them to say, no, this was a mistake.
Well, no,
I don't
Judge,
believe that. I don't believe that there's a big conspiracy here, but I will say this. Might be a good time to get some tickets to Hawaii, Judge. What do you say?
Come on, Chris, be serious. Why did it take 38 minutes, Ned?
You know, we're going to have to find, again, Ajit Pai with the FCC said they're going to investigate. They're going to try and figure out what happened. But what I want the viewers to think about is, thank God today, it looks like a false alarm. We don't know. But imagine this. North Korea, by best estimates, is a year or two away from re-entry technology. And imagine being able to drop a nuclear warhead on American cities in the very near future. We might be 7-8 months away. We might be a year and a half away. Imagine false alarms going for the next, 6 to 12 American cities. That's what I want people to think about and realize we're in a very serious situation. And that's why Donald Trump and the administration are doing everything necessary in their power to bring this to a peaceful conclusion. But we're not that far away. Again, think about if this had happened in 6 to 12 and had not been a drill, had actually been real. That's what we're actually dealing with at this moment.
All right.
Well,
Chris?
let's all thank God. Let's all thank God it was just a false alarm. And God knows what caused it. I'm sure we'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of it. But I don't think it's a big conspiracy. I think there was probably mistakes made. Who knows when they were made? You know, with these IT systems, things could be complicated. And people wanted to check it out before they withdrew the alarm. That's all. It
doesn't take 38 minutes, Chris, to know that this was a false alarm. The truth is, if you've only, no, wait, let me finish, Chris. If you've only got 20 minutes from the time that, we know something's coming at us, it then doesn't take 38 minutes to say, gee, this is a mistake. Something's off here.
Well, look, anybody who's ever had to be on hold with an IT department knows it could take 38 minutes to get an answer
all right,
about what
Chris,
happened to the computer.
thanks for the humor. All right, let's go to immigration, guys. Now, it appeared that there was an agreement on DACA for the wall, and now all of a sudden there is, a real problem, and it looks like the Democrats coming out of that meeting with that bipartisan meeting want now to hold everything off. What do you say, Ned?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump is exactly right, and he's laid out the parameters for the debate. First of all, there has to be full funding for the wall. There has to be an end to chain migration. We have to end this ridiculous visa lottery system. In return, many in his base, and I've done my research, I actually just wrote a piece on this for American Greatness. We are willing to actually strike a deal and say maybe the Dreamers get the green card, they get a 5-year path to citizenship if we get those three things with full funding for the wall, end to chain migration, and ending of the visa lottery system. But let me say this also. It's amazing to me the hypocrisy on display here right now. Wait a minute. In 2006, there were 4 Democrat senators that voted for funding for a wall. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden. In 2010, there was a senator by the name of Dick Durbin who wanted to end chain migration. So at some point in the very recent past, these guys were for it, and now they're fighting it. You know why? It's because Donald Trump.
What's the difference, Chris? Why did they change?
Well, let's start right here with the funding for the wall. I was told in 2016 that Mexico was going to pay for the wall, so maybe the president should give us all updates.
Come on, Chris. The question, I'm not going to let you go there. The question is, why were these Democrats in favor of it a few years ago and now against it? It's just like my opening statement. They don't want to succeed because they hate Donald Trump.
That's right.
No, absolutely not. He's mischaracterizing it. There was additional funding for border security, which Democrats still support today, in exchange for DACA and some other things, and a permanent fix to our immigration problem.
What is a permanent fix, Chris? What is a permanent fix?
Wait. What we're discussing right now, before we get to comprehensive immigration.
You have plenty of time, Ned. You have plenty of time. Let me go. Look. We need comprehensive immigration reform that addresses the market forces.
Stop, Chris. What is comprehensive immigration reform? What is that?
We acknowledge the reality that people are coming to this country for work, and we deal with it with work visas and other things to take people out of the shadow and have them be productive members of our economy.
Oh, so that's what comprehensive immigration is. To you, comprehensive immigration is they all come into work and let's let them out of the shadows. No, that's not true. They don't all come to work. They come, a lot of them, for education, medication, housing, and to live the American dream when they are not allowed to be here. Now, if that's comprehensive immigration reform, then the only reform is to eliminate and repeal all immigration laws so everybody can come in. We can be a global party. Go ahead, Ned.
That's just not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying at all.
Really, Chris, really quick. There's some things that need to be addressed when we get to comprehensive reform. First of all, E-Verify. We need to talk about, really what we need to talk about, Judge, is 40% of the illegals that are in this country are on overstayed visas. We need to actually have enforcement. When visas end, they either have to be renewed or leave the country. We also have to talk about a merit-based system as well. And you know what we also have to talk about in comprehensive reform? Voter ID laws.
Okay, but you know what? Here's the question, Chris. Are the Democrats going to shut down the government next week because they are so angry with Donald Trump that they don't want anything to succeed, whether it's DACA, the wall? They can then blame him.
The Republicans have complete control of government. The Democrats aren't going to shut down anything. It's up to the Republicans. And if the Republicans shut down government, that's on them.
They're not going to. They're not going to. I just talked with a member of the Freedom Caucus right before I came on. He said, we're not going to shut down the government. We have the votes. But here's the other thing. You know what? I kind of wish they would in a way so that the American people could understand what they're up against. Only non-essential employees go home and pay is retroactive.
Democrats don't shut down government?
Congress will vote for retroactive. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I would love to know of the 2 million federal employees that cost us $136 billion a year, how many of them are actually essential? You can only drain the swamp, Judge, if you break apart the administrative state. We have 430 departments and agencies and sub-agencies.
You guys have been trying to start with these.
Actually essential.
Go ahead, Chris. Last word, quickly. 10 seconds.
Look, I mean, I keep hearing this about the 2 million people and to drain the swamp. And Ned, you're very great with the talking points. You're right on it. You're one of the best I've ever seen.
Oh, stop it, Chris. Thanks, guys. Ned Ryan, Chris Hahn, thanks for being with us. The Street Justice is still ahead. And next, he's the just declared Senate candidate that is America Talking. And tonight, He's on Justice. Sheriff Joe Arpaio joins me next live, and you can't miss this. Justice rolls on with the sheriff in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Alicia Acuna. Human error is to blame for panic felt by more than 1 million people today when this notification was sent out warning of an incoming ballistic missile attack on Hawaii. Governor David Ige apologized for the pain and confusion and said that steps would be taken to prevent it from happening again.
We didn't have a process in place to send a message. We didn't have a message scripted that said this is a false alarm. You know, we were not prepared for that. The fact that an alert was issued that was incorrect. So we have built that now.
The false alarm happened when someone in the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency apparently hit the wrong button during what was supposed to be a routine test. I'm Alicia Acuna. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
It's got to include the wall. We need the wall for security. We need the wall for safety. We need the wall for stopping the drugs from pouring in. I would imagine that the people in the room, both Democrat and Republican, I really believe they're going to come up with a solution to the DACA problem, which has been going on for a long time, and maybe beyond that, immigration as a whole.
It's got to include the wall. That's President Trump hopeful after his rare open bipartisan meeting on immigration this week. But now the president's tweet this morning reads, I don't believe the Democrats really want to see a deal on DACA. They are all talk and no action. This is the time, but day by day they are blowing the one great opportunity they have. Too bad. Joining me now with reaction to all of this, former Maricopa County Sheriff and Arizona Senate candidate Joe Arpaio. Good evening, Sheriff. Welcome to Justice. Now, you've announced your candidacy for Senate in Arizona to fill the seat of Jeff Flake, who's leaving. What do you think you have to offer the people of Arizona, and why, at the age of 85, do you want to do this?
Well, first of all, I want to keep fighting for the people in Arizona. I've been doing it for 30 years as a top federal DEA in Arizona, plus 24 years as sheriff. So I got 30 years serving the people of Arizona. But anyway, I supported the president in July of 2015, and I've been with him since then. In fact, Jeanine, getting a little over dramatic and romantic. I never had a hero in my life. It took me 75 years to find a hero, and that's the president. So I'm going to go to Washington, support his agenda, his policies, and they all relate to Arizona. They affect Arizona. So I'm going to fight for Arizona. I'm going to fight for the president. And I'm going to fight for the nation. And if they think I'm going away and disappearing with all their garbage they throw at me the last several years, I got news for them. So that's my agenda. Well, clearly, I mean, criminal contempt. You're found guilty of criminal contempt and pardoned by the president. You know, I want to bring it all out so my viewers know everything that's going on. But let's talk about Hawaii. You seem to have some thoughts about what happened there earlier today. What are your thoughts? Well, I don't want to get into it, but I know doing a certain investigation on a fake, fraudulent government document, they can't even solve that case. They don't even want to look at it. So either they're incompetent, or there's something behind it. So I gotta push back on that a little bit. You know, that document, the long form, was filed. Let's put that one away. I want to talk about what happened today in Hawaii. What you had some specific thoughts about what happened today. Well, the only thing I'm saying, they can't even solve a phony document. So now they got a problem. There's something wrong with that government. Well, all right, let's keep moving, because they did solve that, and I'm going to keep pushing back on that. Now, what do you say to those Democrats who are absolutely determined to either shut down the government or stop the resolution of immigration, the immigration issue in this country, being from a state that's impacted by more than probably the vast majority of states? Well, they ought to be thanking the president. He's the one that brought the immigration problem out front when he ran for office, and I'm sure he made 17 other people really angry because they had to talk about this illegal immigration. So what's wrong with a president talking on a bipartisan situation about this problem? He's a great negotiator. So I don't know why all this heat is going on, because he's talking about DACA, illegal immigration. Everybody should be thanking him, trying to get to the bottom of this.
Well,
he's the only. Pardon?
The amazing thing, Sheriff, is that he's willing, it seems, to go with DACA. He's willing to give them that path, and yet they're not willing to give him the wall. And I was in Arizona not that many months ago, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, there are people coming across at night, people being arrested every day, and you know, for some reason, the elite think that, you know, well, this is okay, and yet the expense that is connected to this illegal immigration is something that people don't want to discuss.
Well, John, you were riding a horse. I've been covering that border for 35 years as a director in Mexico and Texas and on, and Sheriff, I know what you're talking about. But everybody's finding fault with it. Why build a wall? I'll tell you why the wall is needed, to keep all the drugs out of our country. Nobody talks about that except the president, about the drug problem that's destroying our nation.
And, you know, as we go forward, I mean, you know, the number of people dying of drug overdose, opioids, and coming from Mexico, without a doubt, is huge. And I'm not even going to estimate what it is, but more than 50,000 died last year from opioid overdoses. Anyway, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, thanks so much for being with us. We look forward to having you back during the campaign.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. And what did Jim Carrey, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Nancy Pelosi all have in common? Michael Tamaro is here to tell us, and you're going to love it. Next. Welcome back to Justice. You can always count on Nancy Pelosi to say something ridiculous, and this comment doesn't disappoint.
In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on, is so pathetic.
And that's just one of the most outrageous things I heard this week. And joining me now live to talk about it all, the host of In the Light, Michael Tamaro. All right, so what do you say about Nancy there?
Well, she's like the gift that keeps on giving, isn't she? You know, when you fancy Nancy and you love Armani clothes, which she does, $1,000 is crumbs. But for the rest of us, it's a lot of money.
Well, it's not only a lot of money. It's not just 1,000. I mean, it's not just Walmart. It's Amazon, or is it Apple? Everybody got like $1,000 added, $50 added. I mean, how many companies? AT&T.
Tons of companies. It's months of car payments, groceries. It's real money that will have an effect in a real way. This is also the same person who back in 2008, after the financial crisis, was standing on a balcony like Evita, tossing out rebate checks of $200, $300, like that really, and touting that as real economic stimulus. This is why people hate Washington and both parties, because they're all hypocrites.
Yeah, but we don't have a Nancy Pelosi, do we? I mean, this one, I remember once I was doing one of my segments because she was talking like this. I said,
like Evita.
Like Evita, exactly. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, now 2 tweets I want to talk about. One is Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis says, this Hawaii missile scare is on you, Mr. Trump. The real fear that mothers and fathers and children felt is on you. It's on your arrogance, hubris, narcissism, rage, ego, immaturity, and your unstable idiocy. Shame on you, hate-filled self. You did this.
Unstable idiocy sounds a little bit like the state of her career these days. But, you know, she's admitted to digestive issues.
Yes, that's right.
So it sounds like she probably needed a little of that Activia this morning, which she used to push, having some tummy issues. Just saying.
But wait a minute. How do they blame him for this? Why is this his fault?
You know, and the blame goes to the 3 prior administrations, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, for using taxpayer dollars to kick the can down the road. And President Donald Trump is going to be the one who has to fix this mess now.
Well, and he is fixing it. Since when did South Korea and North Korea actually get together and talk to each other? That's Trump.
For the first time, it's big news.
All right. And by the way, there's another tweet by Jim Carrey. I woke up this morning in Hawaii with 10 minutes to live. It was a false alarm, but a real psychic warning. If we allow this one man, Gamoreth, and his corrupt Republican Congress to continue alienating the world, we're headed for suffering beyond all imagination. Before I go to you, what alienating the world. This guy, Kim Jong-un, is a wackadoo. And now this is Trump's fault?
With a bad haircut.
Oh, with a bad. By the way, do you remember when they said he was the sexiest man alive? It was a joke. He started publishing it all through North Korea. I'm the sexiest man alive.
You know, not for nothing. It's just
not Kerry.
These Hollywood stars should be outraged over North Korea with the whole Sony hack and that whole thing and banning the movie. They've all sort of forgotten about that.
Yeah.
But you know, Donald Trump is not the problem with this sort of thing, and this is why a lot of Americans also don't like Hollywood.
Yeah, well, they don't like Hollywood because they're a bunch of hypocrites. So I have to go through my last 3 opens with you.
Go through that opening statement one more time, Judge. She's on fire tonight.
Yeah, but you know, why do they think? Why do these people think that they speak for real Americans? I mean, like I said, every one of them gets 20 to 30 takes when you and we're live. By the way, folks, we are live tonight. This is live. I go through the country and people say to me, "Oh, I like to watch your show," and like, "What do you do on Saturday nights?" I say, "I work. I've been working every Saturday night for 6 years live."
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah,
You're carrying this network on your shoulders, Judge.
Yes, I know. I love it.
You.
Yeah, what shoulders? What? I have my
improved shoulders.
No, it's not improved yet. I just started my PT for my rotator cuff.
Well, you look fabulous.
Well, thank you. Thanks to my hair and makeup.
2018 is agreeing with Judge Jeanine.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Michael in the light. In the Fox light?
The Fox light.
The Fox light. All right, Michael Tamara, thanks so much for being with us. And here's something else some people might find outrageous. Oprah Winfrey for president? Street justice is next. Street justice is back and better than ever. This week, I take you to my hometown in Westchester County, New York, to see